Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of CoinNewsExtra TV interview session, a program where we invite innovators, stakeholders, influencers in the blockchain, crypto, fintech, and AI ecosystem to come air their view. We have a nice topic that we'll be looking at, an interesting conversation that we have here. I'm your host, Lee. So let's look at the topic we have today. We're going to be looking at AI, exploring the future of learning. So we're going to be looking at leveraging AI's observational learning for skill enhancement. So you may have been hearing about AI, what AI can do and all that. So we're going to be looking at how we are going to be leveraging AI for observational learning and skill enhancement. So joining us to have this conversation is Nwanacho Nwana, who is a co-founder and head of product at Valfree. He's joining us from the US. You're welcome to the show, Nwana. You're welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, very well. Great. Oh, great. So we're going to be looking at exploring the future of learning, leveraging AI's observational learning for skill enhancement. That's what we're going to be looking at. Also, for our audience, do well to follow us across all social media platform at CoinNewsExtra TV for you to stay up to date of daily happenings in the world of blockchain, AI, fintech, and cryptocurrency ecosystem. And also we have our amazing innovation that we just launched. Do well to download the CoinNewsExtra TV app on Google Play Store. That's where it is available for now to get rewarded for the halving. Is coming very soon. The reward halving is coming very soon. So for our iOS users, that will be coming very soon. So we're going to be jumping to the conversation that we have today. But before that, we'll go for a quick break. When we return, we delve into the conversation. Please do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. It's still our CoinNewsExtra TV interview session. So we're looking at exploring the future of learning, leveraging AI's observational learning for skill enhancement. Let me first of all hear from our guest what he thinks about this. So can you provide an overview of the concept of observational learning and its potential application in the context of skill enhancement?
Awesome. Yeah, I can give an overview of observational learning, talk about why I think it can be the future of learning and why I think it's the most efficient way of learning a lot of different things. So traditionally in the classroom, we have a teacher, and a teacher will teach you something. They'll say, okay, here's how we should do something, and here's a test to apply your knowledge. But there's a whole other way of learning, which is called observational learning, where we're learning from observation. And because we live in a digital age where there are a lot of behaviors on YouTube, online. We can actually learn a lot by just observing people and observing how they do things and trying to mimic the way they're behaving, the way they're moving, the way they're thinking. And that can be a way more efficient way of learning because one, by observing, you don't really feel, you might not feel as anxious trying to learn, right? And you don't have a teacher telling you, okay, here's a test, here's an anxious situation where you have to be under pressure to apply this knowledge. You can learn at your own pace and you can learn from the people that actually inspire you. So part of the work we're doing at Valfi is observational learning for speech. So how does one speak better? And we're saying, okay, you can find the people that speak well, that inspire you, and you can learn how to speak like them versus a public speaking teacher or coach telling you, okay, here's how to speak, and then them giving you some sort of grading or feedback, which can create anxiety. We believe observational learning can actually decrease anxiety because as you get more confident in copying your role models and trying to follow their example, you get more confident in your speech and you can start to develop your own patterns and be more confident in practicing. So that's really where the observational learning piece comes in. And then in terms of how does AI play into that, AI is really the key missing piece that we didn't have before that will allow us to actually really harness the power of observational learning. So if you go to YouTube or you go to some video and you say, okay, I want to speak like this person, I want to behave like this person, I want to think like this person, you can observe them for as long as you want. But if you don't have a clear understanding of what actually makes their speech good, what actually makes their thinking good, what are their processes that are going into this behavior you're observing, it's really difficult to then go back and try and mimic that. And so with AI, we can extract data from a ton of people's behavior, whether that's how they're speaking, how they're thinking, how they're moving, and we can tell you what those patterns are that constitutes their behavior so you have a more concrete basis to copy that behavior and you're not just by yourself trying to watch and mimic. So that's the core of AI assisted observational learning, and that's why I'm extremely excited about it. That's kind of my life's work. So I think it really has a lot of potential. It's just something I'm very passionate about in the education space.
Interesting. That's very, very, technology is really advancing. So let's look at, could you share some of the examples of AI-driven observational learning system? Could you share that with us?
Okay, so in terms of examples, there really aren't many out there. I think if you think about, there's some video games where you're trying to copy the way someone is dancing, right? That's actually an example of AI assisted observational learning where it's okay, here are the dance moves you want to copy, and now like the system is saying, okay, you're trying to copy it and the system is showing you the moves that you copied correctly and you didn't copy correctly. So in theory, with those type of video games, you could actually learn how to dance exactly like somebody just by continuous trial and error. Okay, did I get this move right? Did I get this move wrong? And continuously trying until you perfect it. The reality, though, is that there aren't really many AI-assisted observational learning methods out there, especially particularly for education. The example I gave was a video game that's not necessarily for education, but this really hasn't, it's a really unexplored field, especially from my research and from what I've looked at. Not a lot of people are using this method, but it's a really powerful method and it could be a powerful method. And Valfi is one of the first AI observational learning pure tools for speech. And my dream and my career is to continue to expand our applications of AI assisted observational learning to apply to essentially any type of skill that we can learn from others and learn faster and learn better. So
Interesting. This is so insightful and amazing. So let's look at what are the benefits of, one could ask, what are the benefits of leveraging AI's observational learning, comparing it with the traditional learning pattern. So what's the benefit, the advantages of applying this pattern?
yeah, so one benefit is higher motivation for learning, right? So one thing we found in the education space is if one isn't motivated to learn, then you're probably not going to learn, right? So if we say, okay, go learn how to speak well, if you don't have a core motivation, not just at the beginning, but at the middle stages, at the intermediate stages, you're not going to put in the work to learn. And so one of the cool things about observational learning is you can really learn by observing who you want to observe. So for instance, Barack Obama was one of my speech role models. And so because that's somebody who I potentially look up to, and because that's somebody that motivates me, I'm going to be more motivated to put in the work to actually try to mimic his speech pattern, right? Observational learning isn't saying, oh, you're just going to spend 1 hour and you're going to be a master. You have to actually put in the time with observational learning, but there's more opportunity for actually have being motivated throughout the process of learning, because you're not just motivated by the fact that I'm going to be learning to be a better speaker. You're motivated by the fact that you're going to be more like a role model. And so observational learning really allows us to harness the power and the psychology of the fact that human beings are very much motivated by role models. And the second piece of it is observational learning is really how we learn most behaviors when we grow up. And then we go into education system and it's flipped backward, right? If you think about when you're growing up, we learn by observing our parents, observing how they talk about things, observing how they handle certain situations. And that's how we learn naturally growing up. And then we go into the education system, we're just told, because we don't have the resources in education, because teachers can't be necessarily role models for everybody. There are a lot of system issues in the education system that makes it tough for observational learning to be applied in an educational system. And so then we go to the model of one teacher teaching a bunch of different personalities, a bunch of different learning styles in one way. And so then learning isn't optimized for all of our students. And so AI allows us to be more efficient in that, because then you can essentially create a ton of role models in one technology. So Valfi has a ton of different speech role models that we've all extracted data from YouTube and things like that, and used AI to make sense of those speech data and give it to a student to then compare. And so those are two ways I think observational learning can really reinvent how we think about learning and make human beings more optimal in the way they learn, and just level us up as a human race in general. So it's very exciting research.
Interesting. Thank you very much for that. In case you're just joining us, it's still CoinNewsExtra TV interview session. So we're talking about exploring the future of leveraging AI's observational learning for skill enhancement. So right about now, we're going to go for a quick break, a very short one. When we return, we'll be able to look at the research you are conducting on this particular topic, and then we'll take some questions from our audience. Please do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. Also, let's go to what we are looking at. You are conducting a research on this particular subject. So could you just briefly, in 2 minutes, highlight some of the things that motivated you to route, and more just a brief around this particular research you are conducting?
Yeah, so the research. So the research has been a really interesting process. So firstly, when I started doing speech coaching, I was just working with, so I graduated from MIT in 2020, and soon after that, just because I had really loved public speaking and loved the theory behind it, started coaching a few MIT faculty members, just putting them on Zoom, saying, okay, speak, let me give you feedback. Just that very simple methodology to teaching. And it was very effective, but I realized that one, this education needs to be available to everybody. Everybody can benefit from being a better speaker. But then I also realized that it's not necessarily optimized in the way it's being taught. So is there a way to actually make people want to learn how to be better speakers? Is there a way to make people find it fun? And just thinking about the ways I had learned speech, I had learned it from viewing people that I thought were good at speech. And so I started doing research, and this is generally how the research phase goes. I just started going on Google Scholar and saying what papers are out there, what can I really think of to prove this point that psychologically it is optimal to learn from observing others. And putting together that research, it seemed like there was a really strong case for it. And so I wrote a research paper. I reached out to one of my former MIT professors and said, here's this paper. What do you think about it? She eventually ended up giving a ton of feedback and said she actually wants her name on that paper. And so it was a really cool experience, got a lot of feedback. And we wrote this white paper literature review on the way learning happens in speech, how specifically looking at public speaking anxiety, right? So for us, we weren't concerned necessarily with, okay, let's make people better speakers. It's how can we reduce speech anxiety and make people more willing to practice. And so when we did that, we realized that this method could actually have potential to really decrease public speaking anxiety. And so we did that, and we ended up submitting that paper along with a grant proposal to MIT to get funding to do this research. And so we did get funding from MIT to do research, which has been awesome. And so now, right now, we are in the process of getting approvals, and eventually we'll start recruiting subjects and actually testing if this method works. And then we'll be writing a paper at the end of the year and submitting to journals. And so it's a pretty exciting time, and we'll see if this AI assisted observational learning really has wings, and if this research proves it could open the door to a ton of different innovations using observational learning to accelerate the way students learn around the world.
Interesting. That's very insightful. Right about now, we're going to look at some of the questions from our audience. My producers are trying to get that on. Some questions are coming in here. So once I see it, I'll read them. Janet Ago is asking, what are intelligent agents and how are they using AI?
Yes, I can only speak to what we would define as an intelligent agent in our context and how they're used in our AI. And so in our context, an intelligent agent is one that one can give you feedback on how to improve the skill that you're trying to improve upon, while also giving you the comparison vector to compare your speech to your role model, right? So the way our technology works is you speak and you get feedback on, okay, how close is your speech to your actual role model. So that's based on our data, that's a part of the intelligence. So the intelligence is saying how close is your speech to the role model. And the second piece is how do I get my speech closer to the role model? And the intelligent agent is intelligent in understanding the different type of feedback that you can give a user to potentially speak slower, to potentially use fewer filler words, to potentially pause more frequently. We've coded that in the back end to make our agents more intelligent to do that. So
Okay, next question here, Chi Nkem. Machine learning, how does it work with AI?
I don't think I'm not really a machine learning expert, so I'm probably not the best to answer that. I think there are definitely a ton of resources online to think about that. Right now, we are more in the educational psychology AI applications. I have a good basis of machine learning, and I think down the line we'll probably have to implement some of those technologies to make our agents more intelligent. But generally speaking, right, like machine learning, AI, they're all under the same umbrella of how do you use data and make sense of it, and how does the machine learn from what it's done in the past. So for instance, in this case, if we're seeing that certain type of feedback is not effective for users and we're saying, okay, do this to speak slower, and users are not speaking slower based on our data, then the machine can learn from that and stop giving that feedback. That's a very simple example of how machine learning can make an AI intelligent agent more intelligent. And so that's my response to that. But I would say, there are a ton of resources if you're really looking to like get deep into how machine learning is applied. I would say just do some research, because I probably wouldn't be the best to go in depth with that.
Okay. Next question here. I feel someone, Kai James, someone is looking for money here. How can someone, like a beginner, make money using AI like the cryptocurrency?
Again, cryptocurrency is not my space, so I don't like giving advice slash insights on a place that's not my expertise. I would say if I were to give advice on that, one thing I would say is to use the open AI resources like the language learning models and just ask it a bunch of different questions like how can I make money using AI to especially in the cryptocurrency space. Or you can research cryptocurrency and think about, okay, what are the steps? And then use AI to make those steps more efficient. So, one of the cool things about AI right now is because of all these newer technologies, we can make a lot of these steps more efficient. So, an AI can potentially set up something for you, it can do research for you, and then answer questions and make it less time consuming to figure out how you can be more profitable in the cryptocurrency space. But again, that's not my space, so I will not speak too much on that.
Okay. Mancha Chong is asking, is there a platform or website one can learn more about observational learning?
Yes, this is a question I can speak on, and I will give a pretty in depth answer to this. So, the reality of the matter is that observational learning, specifically for like the mainstream, has not been really widespread applied, which makes it really exciting as a researcher to be in this field because that means that we're kind of on the cutting edge, we're kind of in the innovative side of things. But that also means that there aren't a lot of resources on it. And so I would say if you are really interested in observational learning, you should go to Google Scholar and look up observational learning, and there are a ton of papers written on it. Um, that is true. There aren't really a ton of like articles. I don't know. I really don't think there are a ton of technologies using observational learning, and that's again why we're on like the newer cutting edge side of things. But there are a lot of papers of people who have talked about observational learning and how animals that aren't humans use observational learning to learn different things. I read a really interesting paper the other day about observational learning and how in sports it can actually be really effective. So there's a lot of cool papers, and so if you want to be on the cutting edge of this research and have knowledge that a lot of people aren't thinking about slash have, just really Google Scholar, ResearchGate, any research based thing, you can find a lot of good papers there.
Okay. Next question here. From Kings Euro is asking, how can someone integrate AI in its business like we can integrate blockchain for transparency? And what's the advantage in business?
How can someone integrate AI in its business so you can integrate blockchain? Virtual? Yeah. So I would say just generally, right? Like if you can make an agent intelligent, then you can make that agent potentially do business tasks that you had humans doing at a faster speed. And that's the whole debate of will AI take away jobs, will AI augment jobs, things like that. And so it's really just essentially making AI do tasks that you probably would have hired someone to do at a slower speed. One of the best applications of AI right now is for writing, right? Like if you are good at creating prompts, you can use AI to help you create marketing collaterals. You can use AI to help you create articles. You can use AI to help you even not writing, analyze data, right? So if you give AI a data set, you can say, okay, answer these questions, like what demographic of customer is probably best to send out this type of marketing to, and the AI will analyze your data and give you an answer to that versus hiring a data analyst to do that same task. And so the main advantage is making your business more efficient and being able to answer questions that you probably would have had to hire a specialist or just someone to do before. So it can save you money as well.
Interesting. I think that's how far we can go with questions from the audience. So let's before we summarize, before we finalize, I would like to get your take on the future of observational learning, AI observational learning. How do you see the future? Just in 2 minutes because of our time.
The future of observational learning. Yeah, that's a great question. So I personally think that, okay, assuming that observational learning works in the way that I hope it works, in the way that I think it could work, I think that schools will start to use, or hopefully start to use, observational learning in a lot of different spheres. So, especially in like the arts, thinking about acting, thinking about singing, things that are very clearly behavior based. I think all of those things will be really heavily observational learning. That's where I think it will infiltrate schools most initially, and then after that, I think there are a lot of other interesting applications that probably have not been thought of yet, just because this method of learning hasn't really been proven. But again, I think that the main entry point will be in the things that are very naturally, intuitively observational, and then also in sports as well. I think observational learning technologies in sports and the arts will actually be initially utilized, and then eventually we'll think about how can we apply observational learning to people solving math problems, right? Can we view someone solving a math problem in different ways and observe them and learn how to solve similar math problems more quickly versus a teacher just saying, here's how to do it? Can we do that in the sciences, right? Can we do that in technology? Essentially anything that you can view someone doing an action that's supposedly useful, which is really in any subject, then you can use observational learning. But in terms of initial implementation, it's going to be where we think implementation will be most obvious. So that's what I think the future is. It's really early, especially because I don't think the AI technologies up until this point have really been at a level where we can implement something this groundbreaking,
Okay.
this cool. But now that we're here, I think the future is very bright for observational learning, and I'm glad to be one of the early people on it. So
Oh, interesting. It has really been an amazing conversation, I must say. I guess we will be able to have you on our show again because this is very insightful. I believe
yep.
our audience are really catching up and they really want to know more. Maybe some other time we can have you on the show. Just before we wrap it up, I'd like to get your closing remarks just in 1 minute.
Yeah, closing remarks. I would say, firstly, when I started thinking about this observational learning method, and a funny thing is the MIT professor I'm working with currently, and she always says this now. She's like, when I first brought to her the idea, she thought it was kind of silly, and she said, why would that even work? It just sounds like a silly idea to be building a technology just to copy other people. But when she saw it, when she saw the research, she's like, this really makes sense. And so my closing remarks, especially for people who I imagine if you're on this stream, you're probably really interested in technology, really interested in not just technology, but the outer frontier of technology, these newer technologies, so AI, blockchain, machine learning, things that have not been conventionally seen and conventionally done. But if you're in that space, you have to be comfortable with people not really fully understanding your theses initially. You have to be comfortable with a lot of feedback. So even if people don't necessarily understand, you still might be wrong in some places. And I had to really refine my thinking in some places as well. You have to really be comfortable with being uncomfortable and believing in your idea and believing in your goals. And so I encourage you all to continue researching, continue thinking, continue being creative, and continue dreaming, because that's really all we can do to continue pushing each other forward. And particularly on the African continent, a lot of dreaming needs to happen, and not just dreaming, but research and execution. So continue pushing, everyone. Are my closing remarks.
Thank you very much. A very insightful one. I really appreciate. I really, really learned a lot from this wonderful conversation. Thank you, Nwanacho Nwana, for joining us. He is the co-founder and head of our product, Valve Free, Valve Fee. So thank you for joining us, for taking our time to joining us on this conversation. And also our audience, we really appreciate you taking our time to join us. If you have other questions, please do well to drop it in the comment section. I know we'll be having him back very soon to have this conversation, because this is a very deep conversation. We really need to understand it more. So do well to follow Coin News Extra for daily update about what is happening in this industry at CoinNewsExtra TV across all social media. Just search CoinNewsExtra TV, you'll be able to connect with us. And also, you know, we have our amazing innovation, the CoinNewsExtra TV app. So our reward they're having is coming very do well to go to Play Store, and there is a QR code on the screen. Do well to scan and download the CoinNewsExtra TV app to stay informed and connected. So for our iOS users, we have you in mind, and that's coming very soon. So thank you, everyone. We're looking forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.